Hi everyone, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Natalie.
Welcome back to News for Teens.
A couple weeks ago, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which was a court decision from nearly 50 years ago, establishing that women had a constitutional right to abortion.
In this video, we'll summarize the history of abortion since Roe v. Wade, explain the key cases that led up to the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs last month, overturning Roe v. Wade, the changing impact on abortion access in the U.S., and the recent response from President Biden.
To begin, we'll provide a high-level history of how abortion access has changed as a result of three landmark U.S. court cases. On January 22, 1973, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision that established abortion as a constitutional right protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, which provides a fundamental right to privacy. The ruling introduced a trimester framework to balance the right to abortion against the government's interest in protecting women's health and prenatal life. During the first trimester, no restrictions are placed on a woman's ability to choose an abortion other than requiring minimal medical safeguards, such as a licensed physician to perform the procedure. Starting the second trimester, a state could restrict but not ban abortions if the regulations were reasonably related to the mother's health. And, starting from the third trimester, when a fetus becomes viable under the medical technology of the time and is able to survive outside of the mother's womb, a state could ban abortion, except where an abortion was necessary to protect a woman's life or health. After the decision in Roe v. Wade, the rate of maternal death dropped significantly, likely because abortions were being performed by licensed medical professionals instead of illegally.
The next landmark case was Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania v. Casey. On June 29, 1992, in a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court upheld a woman's right to an abortion under the 14th Amendment as established by its decision in the earlier case of Roe v. Wade. However, with Casey, the court overruled Roe's trimester framework and changed the legal standard that a state's abortion restrictions were reviewed. Casey overruled the trimester framework set out in Roe, allowing states to regulate abortions before fetal viability, in other words, before the time when a fetus can survive outside of the womb. These abortion restrictions were constitutional as long as a substantial obstacle or undue burden was not placed on the woman seeking abortion of a non-viable fetus.
Nearly 50 years after Roe v. Wade, on June 24, 2022, the Supreme Court issued its decision in the case Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, which addresses the constitutionality of a 2018 Mississippi law banning most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. This law restricted access to an abortion even when the fetus is non-viable. Lower courts had found the law unconstitutional based on the Supreme Court's Roe and Casey decisions, which prevented states from banning abortion before fetal viability or around weeks 23 or 24 of a pregnancy. Breaking precedent, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Mississippi's law does not violate the Constitution, overturning both Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. The court held that the U.S. Constitution does not confer a right to abortion and instead leaves abortion rights or restrictions to be defined at the state level.
With this decision, abortion regulations are now determined by each state. Here's a color-coded map of the U.S. based on analyses from the Center of Reproductive Rights. At a high level, you can see that different states take different approaches to abortion. At one end, there are states that have expanded access to abortion care. In the middle, there are states that have laws that either explicitly protect abortion or are silent and have no laws protecting nor prohibiting abortion. At the other end, there are states that have laws that restrict, prohibit, or in some cases, criminalize abortion care. This map includes not only states, but also U.S. territories and D.C. A key takeaway here is that there's a lot of variation between how states approach access to abortion, with roughly half the states seeking to enforce current laws prohibiting abortion or in the process of enacting new laws that are as restrictive as possible.
Despite the Dobbs decision, results from a survey conducted prior to the ruling showed that most Americans believed that the Supreme Court should not overturn Roe v. Wade. Nearly half of the people questioned supported the right to an abortion, while less than 10% of the respondents believed that women should never be able to obtain a legal abortion. The results also show the stances of respondents can be very nuanced, with many of them only supporting abortions in certain cases.
As it currently stands, the Dobbs v. Jackson decision does not affect all Americans equally, with its impact being especially different depending on the state or region where one lives. Another significant consequence is that the decision will disproportionately impact certain groups, with minority women, women with financial hardships, and those suffering complications in pregnancy being impacted more severely. The decision may also further the rise in America's maternal mortality rates, already the highest by far among wealthy countries, a topic we covered in a previous video I made about a year ago.
While President Biden and many other leaders have expressed their opinions on the recent ruling, on July 8th, President Biden signed an executive order protecting access to reproductive health care services. Although the order will not restore access to abortion in the states that have already banned or restricted the procedure, it could bolster the administration's efforts to help people know what rights they do have. The order safeguards access to reproductive health care services, including abortion and contraception, protects the privacy of patients and their access to accurate information, promotes the safety and security of patients, providers, and clinics, and coordinates the implementation of federal efforts to protect reproductive rights and access to health care. However, it is still too early to tell what effects the order will have.
At the federal level, the recent Supreme Court ruling in Dobbs denies women the right to make their own choice on whether to continue a pregnancy. Since the Supreme Court did away with the constitutional argument that previously established abortion as a right, many wonder what other long-held rights are now at risk. It's very likely that other rights, including same-sex marriage and access to contraceptives, that also rely on due process under the 14th Amendment for their constitutionality, will be reviewed by the Supreme Court in the near future.
What can you do to make an impact? Vote and help increase turnout at the upcoming midterm elections. Voting both locally for state races as well as for House and Senate races can help ensure that our ideals are represented and our rights are protected.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new.